Here we are. Live streamed and recording. All done. Here we are.
There we go. Okay. And we're live.
Yes.
Triple T, number 17, April 26, 2022. Rock and roll. For those of you that are tuning in on the recording, my name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver and corporate coach and certified clinical hypnotist and a few hundred other things. So welcome to Triple T, Talk Time with TJ. As people slowly trickle in, want to thank everybody who joins in and for supporting this platform. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button and click the little bell and share this with your friends, anybody that thinks they might get something out of this. And remember, this is open to anybody and everybody. You don't have to know a thing about what we're talking about. We got some people that have tuned in that don't even know how to spell NLP. So don't feel like you have to be of any certain level to join in. We're going to just let people continue to trickle in. We've got our friends already from Australia tuning in. I feel so honored and privileged. And we got Elijah from the UK joining us now. I just feel so blessed. It's been a great day. Busy. Couple of different things popped up this week that I want to touch on, but I like opening these up, asking if anybody had any stories they'd like to share from the week, aha moments, epiphanies, cool things happening. Anybody? Yes, go ahead, Francine.
I attended some kind of online thing with Elijah. And he blew my mind with the quantum, I can't remember what it was called, but it was quantum something. Wow, blew my mind. I'm still mind blown.
That's what I like about the people that show up here. I don't like being the smartest person in the room, so it's a pleasure to be in the presence of all of you guys. Go ahead, Elijah.
I taught 2 classes this weekend, and it was the first time I taught since like September. And oh shit, my video's not on. Hey. Yeah. And it was really good. It was really fun. It was great to be back in the hot seat, and just so many wonderful people saying so many wonderful things, and I just feel great. So,
good answer.
Thank you, everybody. It's lovely.
I agree with Francine. It was fantastic, Elijah. Amazing job. I did not get to watch the replays yet, but I am very much looking forward to it because I heard it went longer than, how long did it go? Was the recording?
First one, Saturday went 4 hours, Sunday went 3 hours.
And I said, I had to check out at 3 hours, unfortunately. But Fran was, I think, lucky enough to even go both times. Francine, I don't know if you went both times.
There was 4 people came to both.
That's awesome.
Right? And that's just like, you addicts. Do you know what I mean? So I feel great. I feel so appreciated, and I feel so grateful. And yeah, I'm ready I'm ready. We're going to do the whole thing. We're going to do the whole thing from start to finish. I'm going to teach how to do hypnosis my way.
Yes. What a concept.
Right. I mean, so that you can make it your way, obviously. Yeah.
And I'm jealous for two reasons. One, I didn't know about it. And two, even if I did, I don't know that I would have been able to make it because I was in the process of getting my wife ready to go to a conference in Colorado. So I actually have a whole week unsupervised.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeehaw. So as we get more people trickling in, anybody else got any great stories from the week they'd like to share before we jump into the stuff that popped up over the week? Well, then a couple of things that came on the grid for this one. We've got last week it was brought up energy holograph, working with athletes, and then something interesting happened this week. The universe is now starting to send me people who are into day trading. Yes, and one of my clients that I'm already working with, who is a day trader and removing blocks for him and things of that nature, made a correlation between what they do and athletes. And he said, you'd be amazed at the number of athletes that are now day traders, because it's so much of a mental game, where even sports, yes, it's a physical game, but when I work with my athletes, one of the things I love to ask them is, do you think your game is more physical or mental? And because the majority of them are male, surprisingly enough, not, the answer is, well, it's physical. And I'm like, okay, really? So tomorrow you wake up with the perfect body, the Adonis body, and now all of a sudden you are the Heisman Trophy winner, and you are the quadruple Olympics gold medal winner. But have you ever had somebody who wasn't quite as physically fit as you beat you out at your game? And of course, I get that look like, well, and I'm like, yeah. A vast majority of is the mental game. And even more so in trading, because my client said it's kind of like gambling, but it's not, because it's a game of numbers and understanding the market and all of these other things, and it becomes gambling when you start losing. And whether or not you can take your foot off the pedal before the downward spiral takes you too far. Elijah, you had your hand up?
I'm also a trader.
Ah!
And what I'll go so far as to say is you'll be surprised just how close trading and hypnosis is.
But that's where...
And there are many correlations between the two, and I learned some of my best hypnosis moves by studying trading and the markets, and vice versa, right? Is it gambling? I think, yes, it is gambling. No matter which way you slice it, it is gambling. Stock market, but then even go so far as like say like bonds are gambling, right?
Yep.
And so you can kind of take it with a pinch of salt. The idea is to take the randomness out, and the only way to do that is to learn how casinos make their money and do that yourself as if you were a casino.
Yep.
So that's the only way, and it's not a get rich quick kind of thing. You know what I mean? Trading is a long-term game.
Right.
Right.
And that was one of the reframes that I had to do with my client, because along with the financial thermostat protocol that I came up with, I had to do a reframe on him that he has the luxury of working from home now. And I said, well, that's kind of like living in an RV. And you have to be able to enjoy the journey. And he wanted to start working for a new corporation, but to do so, he had to do a qualification where he had to raise a certain amount of profits in a 10-day window. And he's like, and I do great up until like day 8. And then all of a sudden, everything falls apart. And I said, oh. And how many times has this happened? Oh, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times. I went, does that sound like a pattern to you? Maybe. Yeah, he would get so close, and then he would just freak and lose it all. And I said, well, if you think of it like the journey and being in an RV, if your destination is to see every place that you can drive your RV, why are you pushing so hard when you start seeing the storm clouds? Pull over, find a safe place to park, going back, grab a bottle of wine with the wife, and find something to take your mind off the storm. Relax. You've got 2 days drive ahead of you. You've already completed 80% of the trip. You could easily finish the remainder in the next afternoon. But what you've been doing is all of a sudden you see the storm clouds going, you're like, oh my God, I gotta make it, white knuckle, put the hammer down. And of course you get caught in a storm and it blows the RV off of the road, and there you sit, crash. And the week after I did that, he said that whole mind switch was all that he needed. And he started understanding the feeling of the storm starting to brew, and knew that it was time to just pull over, get up, go to the kitchen, spend time with his wife. One of the other things that we found out working together is he used to have a handwritten log of the trades and what was happening. And he hired somebody to make a computer program to track that, and he would have a little deal up on his screen. But what he noticed was he no longer had that break from the action on the screen. Whereas when he was writing it down, he had to break away from the screen, take the time to write down manually, and then go back, which gave his mind a little snap to refresh on what was happening. And so he went back to doing that. And I also future paced him to 2027. And in doing so, I made him realize that the trip between the two is going to have dips and curves and ups and downs, and you have to mentally prepare yourself so that when it starts going down, you're not freaking out because you knew that that was coming up. And it's okay because there's a better rise on the backside, which now has also helped him when he starts seeing things either plateauing or even after the plateau, if they start to do a little dip, he doesn't get nearly as worried about it. Any questions or Elijah, if you want to make 2 million, you got to be prepared to lose 3 million. Yeah, it's kind of like the joke, how do you make $1 million in the restaurant industry? You start with 2. But meaning if you want to net 2, you got to gross 5. Yep, that makes sense. And Francine added that I trade and have been for decades. I worked for a trading bank in Luxembourg in the 90s, and I have been supplementing my income since. Then you fully understand the game behind what's going on with it. And yes, it's a very strong mental game. Lenore, you got your hand up?
Hi. Your future pacing technique, can we discuss that in the group at some point, if not today?
No, I just throw that out there to confuse you. It's something I made up, and
That sucks.
Future pacing, to put it in the quickest, easiest terms, your mind and your mind will help you do things based on a trajectory that it believes it's on. The problem is too many people leave that trajectory very vague. You ask them, where do you want to be in 5 years? Well, I want to be happy. Cool. Put that in your GPS. In your car. Just go down to your car and if your car has voice activated controls, and what's the destination? Happy. And if the car has been programmed for anything decent, it'll go, need more info. Whereas if you give the GPS an address, it will take you to that address. And if you get off course, what happens? Recalculating, it'll give you another route. And it keeps doing that until it gets you to the destination. Well, in future pacing, you have your mind go forward in time, have you? And I like to go 5 years out and let the client in their mind spend some time in the future. Notice where you live, notice what you drive, notice who you hang out with, notice your work schedule, notice your bank account. Walk around in the place where you live and stop in front of a mirror and notice how you feel about the person looking back at you. And they start seeing where they're headed. Part of what that does is it also allows you to see if there are any landmines along the way that you need to address. Limiting beliefs, especially around finances and things of that nature. And then once they record all of those details, I have them turn back and look at the present day and the trajectory that it takes to get from where they are today to where they are shooting for 5 years from now, with the changes that we've made. Because I keep telling myself I'm going to figure this out so that I've got a strong answer on it. But the correlation of if you're leaving New York City on route to San Diego, California, and you're off by 1 degree, that trajectory doesn't drop you in Los Angeles. You're quite a ways away. Well, in 1 degree of change in your choices, your habits, your outlook, and having a destination specifically in mind, your life can make a dramatic change in 5 years or less. And that's why I have people future pace, because I can tell them all they want, well, this is where you should be, and this is what, what your life could be. But until their mind brings it up itself and accepts it as a possibility, what I tell them will have much less effect than if they create it on their own. Any questions? That's a very, very brief, it's like if this is all it takes to explain it, I've given you the paper thin concept, but hopefully that helped a little bit. Any questions or input on that?
It did, thank you.
Okay. And I like the comments about Happy, Elijah. Happy sounds like a place on an island in the Mediterranean Sea. Put those coordinates in your GPS. Hopefully your car floats, or you find a ferry to get you across the water. But hopefully there's queen size beach beds and all the best food and beverages that you deserve. And then Francine, there's a shop in Melbourne called Happy Town. See? But even then, apparently cruises are a thing. Yes. Although I'm waiting till they get a little more relaxed on protocol. Let's see, 621. Now one of the things from last week I'd been asked about, part of my protocol for working with athletes. And two of the things that I like doing with working with athletes, because of my background in massage therapy and things of that nature, is I have my athletes study a chart of muscular and skeletal systems in the body. And, it's funny, they're like, oh, I'm like, no, it's not so that you remember or know all of the bones and muscles in the body. I want you to consciously see how intricate the machine that you are operating to do your sport is. We grow up and we take our bodies for granted to an extraordinary level. Throwing a ball, well, all I do is I just, I just throw it. Well, yes. Now, I want you to look at all of the bones in the frame that supports your body, how many muscles and tendons are attached to those bones, and what your brain is active, what kind of an orchestra your brain is conducting for you to grab the ball, go back, and be able to project that ball forward to a target. And after I have them do that, then I tell them about the study for a NASCAR. A lot of people don't understand that the pit crews for NASCAR, they practice and train as much as any professional athlete, because a tenth of a second that they can shave off of what they do can get that car back out on the track, and it may be the difference between first and second place. And so these guys train and train and train and train and train. And one owner who must have found out something about hypnosis and NLP, was very smart. He brought in a practitioner who watched these guys. And they had reached their glass ceiling. They could not shave another tenth of a second off, but they were very consistent. And so this practitioner did, like I said, had them study the muscular and skeletal charts so they knew what they were doing. He said, okay, now and Holly's joining in. Awesome. Hey, Holly. So we're talking about working with athletes. So he had the pit crew study the muscular and skeletal chart. And then he said, okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to think about each individual bone, each individual muscle that's being used for what you do. And then I want you guys to think about how smooth can you do what you do. Not fast, not strong, not muscle it. How smooth can you do it like a dance? And what I want you to envision is when your car starts coming down pit row, the music starts. And you guys with the jacks, how smooth are you going to slide those jacks under and get to pumping the handles to raise that car? You guys on tires, one with the impact wrench, how smooth can you move down and get in? Hit the lug nuts back out. The guy that's taking off the old tire, how are you going to dance over the top, grab that tire and dance out of the way while the guy with the new tire dances in as smooth as possible, puts that tire on so the guy running the impact can dance back in and tighten and make this a whole dance. And we're not trying to beat our old time. I still want you to do it fast, but I want to see how smoothly you can do it, and we're going to see what your time is. And before we test you, I want you guys to write down on a piece of paper what you think the time change is going to be, whether it be faster or slower, and by about how much you think the change will be. And they did the best out of 5. Only 2 of them were slower, and those were the first 2. And they were almost even. The last 3 were actually faster. And it blew their minds when they saw the times, because every single one of them on the pit crew wrote down that it was going to take longer, in fact, significantly longer. So in doing that, some of the athletes that I've worked with, one was a professional baseball player. And he was at that age where there aren't a whole lot of old baseball players in pro series. And he was getting a little nervous. But when he started working smooth, he said that he now throws harder and farther than he did when he was younger. The other thing that I had him do was picture the target is not the mitt that he's throwing to. The target is 1 foot behind through the mitt. And these new young guys that he's throwing the balls to, they're noticing some improved impact in their glove from the old dude in the game, who is still, I think he's early or mid 30s, something like that. So those are just a couple of the tips and things that I do when I'm working with my athletes. Any input, questions on that? Come out of trance. Bueller. Cool. Well, then I guess we're up to energy holographs. And this Lenora?
Sorry. Quick question.
Sorry.
Do you have them do something before they go into the game, like getting in the zone type thing? Do they do anything before that?
Oh, yes. Got all sorts of stuff.
Okay.
I teach them power poses, which I learned from Amy Cuddy. If you've never heard of that before, she has an amazing YouTube video, TED Talk. I think Dr. David Snyder and I are probably responsible for at least 2,000 views on on that channel for her, but I fully believe it. Of course, the science community had to come in and poo-poo all over her stuff because they couldn't recreate exactly what she had said, which, of course, in old science, it's by numbers. We won't talk about new science at the moment. But in defense of her studies, whether or not the scientists back then couldn't get the same cortisol and help me out, I'm blanking right now, changes in the blood work, how much of that is belief, rapport, understanding of how it works, all the above? And then they're going to be like, well, that is just a placebo. Right back to my okay, cool, placebo. You mean that thing that every medication on the planet is compared to, that works sometimes up to 80% of the time with 0 side effects? Wow, terrible thing. Oh, a placebo. Yeah, you know what? If that's what it is, awesome. But I've seen it work. It's worked for me. And so I believe in it. That's why I teach it to my athletes. Another deal that I teach, Dr. David taught this, Hakalau, from the tribal islander warriors. And it's a stance that I use for a couple of different things. One is it opens up your visionary perceptive around you to where you can almost detect a full 360 degree radius of things happening around you, which is amazing for athletes and warriors. I'm not going to teach it tonight. I'll save that for another training or time when we've got more time. But one of the things that I have managed to do with it that is kind of fun, I love teaching it when I have a group, because oftentimes what I will do is the main person that I'm demonstrating Hakalau with, I will have somebody walk around behind him and hold up a certain number of fingers. And I will ask the person who is in deep Hakalau, how many fingers is the person behind you holding up? Over 80% of the time, they can make 3 correct guesses. And the other people out in front are watching this going, no way. Just another way that I like to, prove the application. So those are some of the things that I use working with my athletes. Any other questions, ahas, epiphanies, add-ins from anybody? Cool. That's good or not? Good stuff? Enjoying this stuff?
Very good.
Awesome. On to energy holograph and holographic memory resolution, HMR, from the amazing Brent Baum, who gave me that wall decoration right there. And I've been using it ever since. And not to steal his training and everything, if you guys get a chance to study his work and take classes with him, spend time with him, please do. Lenora, can you add a few words to what I'm saying? Because I know that you got to take his class as well.
Just a few. I actually, I just sent him my packet. So I am testing with him for certification, hopefully this week. It's incredible. If you guys ever get a chance to learn anything, watch anything from him, he's absolutely fascinating. And he knows so much information. You could literally talk to him about understanding the difference between certain medications that are affecting your body to certain memories that are affecting your body. It is phenomenal. He is just a wealth of knowledge. So I highly recommend, if you have the chance or the finances to even take a day course with him, do it. Amazing decision.
So what was your favorite takeaway from, how many classes have you been blessed to take with?
I've been blessed to take a number of classes. I've spent a lot of time with them. It's actually 3 levels, and then you go for certification. So you can do, there's a weekend practicum, and it's just a healing intensive. And then you can do that. You can do level 1, level 2, and then level 3. And then you can sit for the certification. And the third certification is, I think, less than 70 people are actually certified to do this. Last I heard in November, it was like 65 people. So to actually, you can get trained and still do the techniques, but you can also become certified and then be that much more educated and then be comfortable in your skills. But then you can actually also go to other people and work with other professionals. So other physicians can actually refer you out. So these unexplained pains, these unexplained things that won't go away, they're actually referring to HMR for it. And there's actually this full research project that they've started to use this as a form of treatment, which at least in our Western culture is really, really exciting, because you're not just turning to a pill for anything. It's moving energy, it's getting out of your body, and it's getting resolved so that you can continue to function, which is a great thing. We love that.
And one of the things that I love about being able to do Triple T is I get to ask people if they would teach some stuff. And I get that look on when we haven't prearranged this. And I'm luckily the bullets don't fly far enough to hit me yet. So would you explain a little bit to these people what HMR is?
I'm so glad you're happy. You and Holly over here. HMR, the best way to explain it would be a gentle emotional reframing. And what I love about it is that you don't, whereas some other techniques, you have to really dive into that event and you have to process and go through that event. Whereas with HMR, you're coming in and I was working with one of the teachers today and she said, you're visiting. And I love that because you just have to spend a little bit of time with that emotion and then you can move it. And whether you're really, some people will tell me like, oh, colors aren't a thing for me. And that's okay. Or it's too woo-woo, or it's too out there for me. And that's okay. And that's the beautiful thing about HMR is that it is science-based and you are talking about energy and you can actually tell somebody rather than like, oh, what getting them to address this energy that's coming in. So, okay, tell me the weight, the temperature, the size, and these are things that we know from NLP and hypnosis. But what you're actually doing is you're getting the brain to focus on this one thing. And that's great because everything else can quiet down. You can focus on this and you can move it and you can move it out of you and you can then manipulate it. You don't have to know all these things that we know. You just have to trust that somebody's guiding you through it and you can actually get resolve. And that is such a powerful thing because when you have resolve and you can actually say, wow, oh my God, I don't know what happened, but that felt a lot better. And you just know, your body knows. Our bodies have such incredible intelligence and it is truly beyond our ability to actually perceive it. But the fact that you can actually go, wow, I feel lighter. I don't know what happened, but I feel lighter. That is a great thing because we talk about our feelings all day long. And that's all you need to know is just, yes, I feel better, or no, something's still there. And you can keep moving through it. And then you don't have to stay stuck for years on end. And woo!
The cool part to add on to that, I call it non-disclosure therapy.
Love that title.
So many people are afraid to work through stuff because they're not sure what's going to come up. They're not sure if they want anybody else to hear what they've gone through or what's going on. With HMR, they don't even have to know what the energy correlates to, what it means, what happened, or any of the above. And in doing so, it gives autonomy to allow this person to process the energy that is no longer serving them. And in doing so, again, they don't have to know what it was to resolve it. They don't have to worry about telling you what it was in order to resolve it. The best thing is, at the end, like Lenora said, oh, I feel so much lighter. And I've witnessed this over and over and over. And Francine, you had a question?
I just want to add that it's important for a lot of people not to discuss it because it brings us back to the time when the things actually happen. Like me, by example, I had years of talking therapy, and instead of going forward, I went incredibly backwards and to a spot where I nearly did something really stupid. This non-disclosure therapy is probably the best because it doesn't trigger us. And also, if it's done properly, it is actually very good for anyone who's had trauma in the past. And it actually heals quicker, better, and faster and easier as well.
Yep. And I've actually gotten myself into trouble with a couple of therapists because I respect them for the amount of time and money that they've invested into their craft, but it seems that a number of them stopped their learning there. And it's almost like they're like, hi, welcome back. Okay, sit down. Oh, you know that injury you got? Well, let's pull the Band-Aid off. And I'll go ahead, dig in there and tell me how it got hurt again and how it hurts. And yep, tell me about the pain. And oh, look, the time is up. Oh, put the Band-Aid back on. I'll see you next week for about 10 years. And I've had a couple of them that absolutely argued with me. Like, it got pretty unruly for a bit when I asked them, you know, like, how long should it take for a person who's suffering from severe arachnophobia to be done using what they're teaching you? And they're like, well, that depends. I'm like, well, you know, how many sessions are you thinking? Well, you know, 3-4 months. I'm like, okay, is that once a week, twice a week? But, you know, I'm trying to pull an answer out. I'm like, come on, with what you're learning, if I come in and I've got severe arachnophobia, on average, how long would it take me to expect to be cured? Well, if it's really bad, probably twice a week for, you know, 3-4 months. And I said, and what kind of expense is that? Well, if you want change, you know, you got to pay for change. I'm like, no, I get that. But we're not talking just financial. If I'm coming to your office 2 times a week, that means I have to get time to get off work, to get myself to your office, to sit in your chair, to talk with you, to get back up, to get back in my vehicle. Probably can't get back to work. Or if I do, I've lost, you know, at least 2 hours of my workday, twice a week. And then all of that, and no offense, but using HMR and spinning, I took a person who was so arachnophobic that when he was standing outside at one of my rentals with 2 of his roommates, and I brought up spiders, and he was like, "Ow, spiders!" And I went, really? Like, if there was a spider on this garage door and I squished it, and he had such an ab-reaction, literally skin flushed, goosebumps on his arms, and he's just like, "Oh, good, dude, don't do that." And I went, really? Would you like to get rid of that? Well, I don't know. I said, no, really, dude. Like, you're out on a date, you see a spider, and you grab her and you throw her in front of you to protect you. I said, yeah, that'll get you what you want. No. And yeah, I cleaned it up a little. And he goes, well, what do I got to do? I said, well, you got your 2 buddies here to make sure that I don't have you clucking like a chicken. I don't even know how to do that. Just close your eyes and follow my instructions. 5 minutes later, I had him cleaning up cobwebs with his bare hands. And he was like, what kind of voodoo is that, man? And I went, it's not voodoo. What you had was phobias are perfect memory. Your brain has to know exactly what to do every time that anchor is set off. And when it comes to spiders, that alarm for you is right here, this big, and the volume is at 12. I said, now I didn't erase your common sense about spiders. You still have respect for spiders. I didn't want you to go, oh, look, a black widow. Yeah, I'm not scared of you. But at least now I took the alarm, I shrunk it down, turned the volume down to about 3, and set it over here. So now you can go, oh, a spider. Am I in danger? Daddy Longlegs. I'm good. 2 weeks later, I had to go back to his house, and I call him Spidey now, Spider-Man. And I walked up and, hey, Spidey, what's up? He goes, dude, I killed a spider with my bare hands. It was on the wall. I was like, I did it. And I didn't freak out. I said, yes, that's why we do this. And then I looked at the therapist and I said, now, which is more ethical? Well, that's a lie. You can't, no, he was just fibbing. You can't cure somebody of that kind of a phobia that quick. I went, don't tell the people that I've cured, because apparently they don't know that. It worked for them. You might want to take a few classes, try it out, help some of your clients. I mean, I know that, it probably won't pay as well, but at least you'll have your clients cured. Just saying. And while I was talking, Francine put in here, took me one of Dr. David's videos pretending I was the client to cure the agoraphobia I had. Watched it 10 times and pretended 10 times. 2 weeks after, I was on a plane to Sydney for the course. I was there. You're awesome. That was cool. And then Fran, I used variations around fast phobia plus more and removed really massive snake phobia in 40 minutes. You rock. That's what I'm talking about. And yeah, and one of the people that I met who had been seeing a therapist for over 10 years, my wife. And I was like, you what? 10 years? Same shit? Pile? Really? Is he using a teaspoon? Is he really moving any of it? I mean, is he like up on top and just flicking it from the bottom up to the top? Yeah, so may or may not have worked that one out and put him out of a client. Just saying. And that, again, was a rather hyper-condensed version of psychologists made stuff much worse. And in defense, if you're a psychologist, please stop typing, relax. Yes, some of you do great work, but we've also had, Dr. David has had a number of psychologists who have come to his class to learn his techniques. And when they got done, one was into cars. It was an older gentleman, and he said that he felt like he was a mechanic for Model Ts, trying to work on new Ferraris and didn't understand there was new technology out there. Yes, he was working on vehicles with doors and steering wheel and tires, but using old technology. So HMR blew me, and it's so funny. this might get me in trouble too, but even with some of the learning traditional old school NLP, when Dr. David would teach his certification classes for NLP, it was so funny when his students, longtime students, were in class and they're like, well, can't we just do HMR? Well, can't we just spin it? We're not. You have to understand why you learn true basic NLP, because it's like the metaphor I came up with. If you've ever been to a mechanic shop and you see the huge toolboxes that they have. Yes, I had one too. Now I've got 3 of them. And I tell people, do you understand how many of those tools get used on a daily basis? Out of that big ass toolbox, how many of those tools get used on a daily basis? Less than 20%. Well, then why do you have to have the big toolbox of tools? Because when that 67 Ferrari shows up and has an issue, those 20% of tools that you use every day are not going to fix that problem. What you need is that tool that's in the back of the bottom drawer on the right-hand side that you bought 12 years ago and learned how to use it. And that's where the basis of true traditional NLP gives you extra tools to utilize when you learn stuff like HMR and spinning and all of the above. And Stina put in, I teach my friend who's a psychologist hypnosis and run him through the processes for his own issues. And he uses it on his clients, calls it meditation. Yes, for the win. And the other cool part about that comment, calls it meditation. Hypnosis doesn't care what you call it. You can call it energy work. You can call it guided imagery, meditation, all the above. The bottom line is, did you get the outcome you were looking for? Like Elijah put in, it's about principles. Once you understand underlying principles, impossible is nothing. Amen. The other scary part is once you understand underlying principles, you start seeing the matrix more. And you start hearing things the way people say things. And I've had to learn a number of times, not everybody wants to be fixed. And sometimes the hardest people to work with are friends and family. Hardest people to work with. Oh my goodness gracious. I can take somebody who I've never met before, tell them I'm going to charge them $200 an hour, and they are willing to help. And even if I have a friend or a family that comes to me because they know what I do and they want help, but they don't want to pay, the amount of work and the rate that it actually works, I'm like, please go see one of my friends, my associates, go pay them money. Well, are they as good as you? Doesn't matter, because you know me. I know you. You knew me when I was partying and had a lampshade on my head one time. I can't be a prophet in your land because you know me. Elijah?
Yeah, just kind of coming back to when you said you start hearing what people say. the other day, I asked, like, I have this friend that I've known for like 20 plus years, right? And the other day I was asking him how he does something, and I wanted to kind of figure out his process, right? And he said, I don't know, I just get this gut feeling in my brain. Like, those were his words. I get this gut feeling in my brain. And as someone who knows NLP, like, I'm stumped. I'm like, how the hell do you get a gut feeling in your brain, bro? Like, and he couldn't explain it. I had to run him through some other questions and stuff before I finally got like what it was he was saying. You know what I mean? But it's fascinating because you really do start hearing things. You really do start hearing, like you said seeing the Matrix, but it's like hearing the Matrix as well. You know, you start hearing the self-hypnosis that's everywhere.
And another one that adds to that is when you start learning Chinese facial reading, which is another one of those technologies that once you turn it on, you can't turn it off. There is no turning it off. And that, I know we're getting at the top of the hour here, but I've got a story that I wanted to share. 2 days ago, I go to the grocery store, and this lady walks by, and she has poorly painted on eyebrows. Y'all have seen this trend now. I mean, it's like, you put the screen up and you spray paint it in, and I don't know who cut the form out, but I'm like, oh, hun, no. I mean, she had that full-on surprise look all the time. Like, those eyebrows belong on a dude football player. I don't know. Not, but, and one of the first things you learn when you learn facial reading is you analyze what stands out first. And of course, when you're grocery shopping, you're going back and forth on the aisles, so you meet each other like half a dozen times. And finally, I just couldn't help it anymore, and I said, "Excuse me, out of curiosity, just so I can help my class, do you feel like your personality changes at all when you color in your eyebrows?" Talk about a random question in a grocery store. She's like, "No, I think I've always been pretty much, the same. I have my eyebrows needled and microbladed, or what? Obviously, I don't have it done. Yes, I actually have to trim mine, or else I would look like I've got two raccoons sitting on my forehead." But I said, I explained to her that it was for Chinese facial reading, and when you redo your eyebrows, it can actually change your personality. And that's where she was like, "Huh?" And I said, "You don't have to believe me. There's a book, William Pearl Bridges, Chinese Facial Reading. She is the premier, has been for, look it up. You might even be able to see the page on eyebrows on Amazon, just so you know that I'm not some random goofball walking around." And after she left, I went, how many people are afraid to talk to people out of the fear of being judged? A lot of people would see somebody like that and they would have no problem telling their friend or whoever's with them all about her. But would you take the time to actually stop and talk. And right after that, something was nagging on me, and I wasn't sure why, until I got into the checkout line. And before I do that, Stina said the big eyebrows are today's version of 80s shoulder pads. Amen. Ladies, pick a different form. You know, the perpetually surprised look. I don't understand it. But back to the story. So I get in line to check out, and there's a mother and daughter in front of me, younger daughter, probably early teens or something like that. And I couldn't help but notice her hairline. And you know how they have all the stuff by the checkout, and she's going, instead of looking at the magazines there about all the people that we don't really care about on TV and media. I'll explain how I feel later. She's looking at these little foldouts for the birds of Texas and flowers of Texas, and she's like, and look at this one. Oh, and we saw this one the other day, Mom. Oh, and look at this one. And I'm watching her, and her hairline stood out so much that as Mom was just finishing paying, I went, excuse me, out of curiosity, could I ask you a quick question? And Mom's like, because I was dressed like a mechanic at the time. I said, out of curiosity, how many different things is your daughter good at? And she goes, oh, she is incredible, but she's what'd she say? Not autistic. Dyslexic or something. She doesn't do well in school with reading and math. And I said, oh, so they judge her for the fish that can't climb a tree like a monkey. And she goes, yeah. I said, the reason I'm asking, Chinese facial reading, she has a very extrapolative hairline, which is typically people that know a lot and can take this thing and put it together and explain it this way. And she goes, oh, my daughter is so good at that. I said, well, I work with students like that. And the mother goes, you do? I've been praying to find somebody for so long. I went, and I got goosebumps. I literally was like, look, and Mom goes, yeah, look. I said, here's my card, just free 30-minute consult. You know, if there's something I can help her with, I said, but let your daughter understand. She knows enough. She doesn't have to be an A student at what the school thinks she should know. And Mom got a little teared up, and of course I got a little choked up, and I'm like, wow. Okay, so I wasn't supposed to talk to Eyebrow Girl about, well, maybe I was, I don't know, maybe so that she would, realize that her eyebrows were not sending the right message or helping out her personality. But the ability to just be not scared to ask a question like that in public, it made my day. And I just wanted to share that with you guys to let you know that, there's, when you start thinking about the languaging patterns and stuff that we go over, again, your outcome can be as simple as making somebody smile. You don't have to know their name. You don't have to figure out how to date them or build rapport or all the above. sometimes it's just making their day better, and sometimes the stars align and somebody who's been praying to find out some information has been waiting for you to ask a random question like, does your daughter know a lot about different things? And thank you, Stina. I appreciate that. Yes. And to be honest with you, part of it is why I do Triple T, is hopefully that, somebody will run across this and hear something that helps them, or they'll share it with somebody else, because there might be something in there that somebody needs to hear. So again, I don't do this for the glory or for money or anything. I just want people to know this stuff exists and get this stuff out of my brain that won't shut off, and hopefully infect some of you guys with this information. As Fran so lovingly put it last week, that I infected her with information and curiosity. And that brings me past the first hour, where I talk about the stuff that I've dug up over the week. And that opens us up to the second hour, where if you guys want to share something, or if you have a question about something, or want to talk about something, we got an hour to enjoy each other's presence. And so it's open mic session. What do we got? Hit me up. What's going on? Yes, Fran.
I've had a project that I've been working on for a bit more than a year, and all of a sudden I've come to an absolute full stop with it. I don't want to do it anymore. It's got to change. I want to keep doing something, but it has to change. It's achieved nearly all the goals I wanted from doing it originally, but the goals have to change. How can I do that more seamlessly rather than just sort of blowing it all up?
Well, what happened when the change occurred, out of curiosity?
Frustration on my part that something was not happening that I wanted to happen. Okay. And I wanted to move in a different direction. I've sort of expanded, not all the possibilities, but I was going stale or starting to go stale and repeat the message that I was putting out there. And it's time for expanding into vibrational energy work and trying to explain that to people who haven't done it before is also a bit of a, how do you explain that stuff? And I mean, it makes such a difference to my life and probably to everybody else that's done it. And trying to get that idea over to sell it, I think the main thing is don't rush it. Think about what I'm doing, step back for a minute. But, finding my own way forward, how can I describe something that I don't know what it is yet?
Well, part of what hit me when you were talking about that is like Jordan Peterson's whole, if you're thinking about doing something, do it. Even if you're not sure if it's right, because if you're halfway down the trail and all of a sudden you're like, well, this isn't what I'm supposed to do, I'm supposed to be over there, you would have never seen or understood that perspective back there. Or you would have done it from the start. And there's also the concept of, do you really have to throw out the whole batch of chili if you want to start something different? You've got all the ingredients there, now you're bored with chili. and you want to make something else, what can you use of the ingredients that you've already assembled?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I don't know, we're talking in a lot of vagueness here, because I'm not sure how much you want to share about what you're doing and where you're going.
I can be precise. I'm happy, but I just don't want to put too much of my stuff in your session.
Oh, no. This is where the group gets to help. So
okay, for my own personal development and for interest, I wanted to start a hypno-meditation group just over a year ago, to gain my confidence working with groups, managing a group in hypnosis, so that I can keep an eye on everybody and sort of monitor how everybody's going, and even do some fairly pushy stuff with a group that maybe other people wouldn't do. This wasn't just to sit back and enjoy a little gentle hypnosis or a little gentle meditation, but it was actively doing processes for a specific purpose. And I'd put a lot of research and planning into what I was doing. And though I wasn't writing a script, I was writing a plan of what I wanted to include. But I've kind of exhausted that line. I can do the hypnosis standing on my ear now. So, yes.
No, serious.
I'm confident of managing a group online. As long as I can see everybody, it's cool. And even those that I can't see, well, I've given up worrying about that now. If they want to keep their cameras off while they're in process, well, that's their choice, their responsibility. And yeah, I mean, I'm confident of managing that situation. So it's now time to throw some more challenges out there for me. And because this is now mundane, chilly every night, like you said, I need to spice it up a bit. And for me, the spicing is to take everybody on an energy journey, a vibrational journey, teaching them how to raise their vibrations, utilize energetic practices in their own lives, how to be able to bring their, do certain energetic processes at will, comfortably. But I need a certain amount of commitment from people turning up regularly to do that as a step-by-step, because these people are coming from zero, or some of them are coming from zero. So trying to get them to utilize their energetic functions, I mean, it's hard enough to put into words.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do. And I'm trying to explain what I'm planning, how I want to do it, and to get just a few people along for the ride. And maybe this is also a forerunner for practicing doing in an unpaid environment where I've got my test group. And maybe I'll do some of it commercially or make a product, a saleable product at some time. But this is my test group that I'm learning while I'm showing them. But I've hit the brick wall of I can't continue on as I was. There's some people that really, really appreciate this sort of weekly time out that I've given them from their insane lives. I don't know if I want to do it weekly anymore. Because asking people to turn up weekly, well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depends how crazy they are. And this is a step-by-step process. So I want to try and bring everybody along for the ride. And I've taken up lots of time, so I'll shut up now.
No, now you'll open for the group to give their input on. Anybody got any input for our wonderful friend?
Don't wait for commitment from other people. Just start doing it.
Yeah. I was planning on starting doing it for the few that I know are committed. And then if other people want to come along, but then I don't want to bring everybody back to step one all the time. I want to be able to do step one, then step two, then step three. And because if new people come in at step three, I'm going to have to go back and show them the basic steps, or maybe that's an opportunity for revision. Lenora.
I apologize if I missed some things that you said. My internet, shocking. If you've worked with me at all in the last number of weeks, you know my internet is a little feisty. Have you mapped it out to say, okay, I want it to look, and what you want it to look like on 6 weeks, and create the program however you want to see it run, especially if it's going to be your own personal thing that you want to nurture and create. And then also say, okay, if you're going to be a part of this, here are your responsibilities. You need to be a part of this for such and such, and I'm going to need feedback for such and such. And that way you can get the information, but you also get the commitment. And you get people knowing where they are, and you can see where they're having difficulties, or you can see where you're like, oh, I'm going to want to fine tune this in the future for round 2. And that way you're kind of starting to sculpt it more rather than, oh, if this works, if it doesn't, like if you want to be a part of this, I'm asking you to commit for 6 times or whatever you want it to be. But see, that way you don't feel like you're carrying everything. And you're also feeling like you're able to sculpt and cultivate and create what you want more clearly.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I hadn't quite got to that forming it. It's just I'd got to the point I can't go on. I don't know what next.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was there, and I actually ended up collaborating with somebody else to help it become more of not just this thought floating around in my head and, you know, what I wanted it to do. And the fact that I included somebody else and they included me helps create that accountability. And then when we get together, it's, you know, it's fireworks. It's just expansion. And we're able to, we record our conversations. So that way we don't have to go, oh, what did I miss? Or, oh, we said that a couple of weeks ago. What was it? Because that way you can just keep building off of it and you don't miss a beat. Because I don't know if it's frustrating for you. When I forget something, I'm a little upset about it. So.
And the other challenge I'm having, which you've kind of covered with this is your commitment, is for this sort of work, I need people live.
Yeah.
I can't. This is not something I'm either willing to send out recorded, because also I've got to vet the people who I'm showing this heavyweight stuff to.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to share this with just anybody because, like Elijah discussed in his sessions, it can be misused, and it can be misused big time. And I did at one time actually show somebody how to use a particular energetic process, and they did misuse it, and I felt really terrible about that.
I would keep it maybe smaller rather than like 6 people or 10 people. Say, all right, here's what I need. This is my schedule. This is the time that's working. Here are the options, and then put out 2 or 3 options that work for you and see who else. And if your group is 2 or 3, great. It's 2 or 3. It's 2 or 3 more than what it was. And it's starting to move. So that's
absolutely. That's great. And from that 2 or 3, you can then take myself into the next step. Okay, I've done this. What next? Absolutely. So Francine, you were going to give me something helpful. Thank you.
Well, I was thinking if you want if you want to go to the next level and then you realize, well, people are dropping out, what you can do if someone else says, oh, well, I'm free now, I can join, then you can redo the 1, 2, and 3, but like more like a condensed version, like a quicker version. So that would work as well, you know. So if you find that you are at 4 and then suddenly you're only 2 and it's not kind of what you want, you can start at a 1 and then quicker 2 and then back and then maybe go even further.
Yeah, I guess there's no reason why not going back and consolidating. Just I don't want sort of to have one person. I don't want to keep going back to the beginning all the time. Or maybe that is a good thing just to build into the program. Go back to basics.
You could just do it like once a year or once. You don't have to do it on a regular basis, but like have a separate group and then start from the beginning to get them to the right spot.
Yeah, that could work too.
On the quicker, you know.
Yeah. Good, thank you. Yes, that's cool. Elijah, thanks. Thank you for all this input.
I was thinking, once you kind of decided what it is you want to teach and how many lessons it would take to go through it once, if somebody wants to join halfway through, you say, well, we're all booked up at the moment, but I have the next one starting in 6 weeks' time or in 8 weeks' time or whatever it is. And the fact that you are all booked up and not able to restart for them is going to make them want it more. And it's going to make them prepare themselves and clear their schedule and make sure that they can make it on time. Because even though you might have fewer people in there than you can handle, right? Because I'm sure you could handle more than just like, let's say it was just 2 or 3 people. I'm sure you could handle like a dozen or probably more. It depends on like what kind of exercises you're doing and stuff like that and how you're going to organize it. But the point I'm trying to make is, don't be afraid to tell people no. Sorry, we already started. Train left the station. You have to wait for the next one. That's it. Right? You don't be afraid to tell people, like, if you recall, right, in the Telegram, when I sent out the 2 Zooms for this past weekend, as soon as I sent them out, there was a text from a lady called Maria. So, Elijah, I won't be able to make it on this weekend unless I can just come in and sit quietly and listen and not participate. And I said, we'll miss you and you can watch the replay. That's it. I don't want people in there sitting there doing nothing. You know, I want people who are going to participate. And that's how, and you can't be afraid to tell people no. And that goes for much more than just this.
Yeah. And the other thing is I've made replays more readily available so people don't have any investment in coming along. So this stuff, I'm only going to share it with the participants.
Like you said, what you're talking about now does require presence.
Yeah.
For someone to be there live, right? So it's not going to be something you can just pick up through a video anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So maybe only for those who were there on the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
That it would be meaningful to them and not other people. Cool. Thank you. That's brilliant. Yeah, I have to bring in the scarcity factor as well.
Yep.
Thank you. That's really useful. Appreciated.
Fran, can I ask you a question, because I don't know about your group, but is this something, since you didn't want to like record it and send out a video, like if somebody missed, is that something that you could put on the other members to maybe like help bring somebody along if they missed a class, to like volunteer to pick up that slack and go over it, or no?
No, that they're learning the skills. It's not something that somebody who's learning would easily be able to transmit to somebody else. And also the strength of the group amplifies what you're doing. If you've got a lot of people working together like this, it becomes easier to feel and experience. So
okay.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Sure, you're welcome.
This is exactly what I wanted Triple T to be. second half is all about us helping each other with stuff like this. So always know that you guys, all of you, are welcome to ask questions for the group. Okay. Anybody else got anything they want to share? We got half an hour. Any questions? Anything else? Yes, Francine.
Well, I'm thinking to start a group here at the library. I'm just waiting until the COVID stuff has completely disappeared, that there's no rules or regulations regarding that. And then my concern is that because it's a group in person, how do you deal with people who are either disrespectful or arriving late, or who have all these questions and who make no sense, who's, it's going to be a free thing. And I worry about that. What would you do then?
You mean dealing with humans in their natural environment?
Yes, that's one way. Yeah. Because I don't have a strong mental health, with the brain injury and all the anxiety and all of that. I still suffer when people say some stuff to me. So I know it's easy. People say, "Oh, just wear Teflon," and
I've got something for you.
I don't want to use the heavy guns. I want to be nice and inclusive.
Use exactly what you said as your reason for them to respect you. Hold your event in a room with a door. When it starts, sign goes outside and says, "Sorry you missed it. Hopefully you can make the next one. Please do not disturb."
Oh, that's a good one. Thank you. Yeah.
That causes scarcity, and it also teaches everybody has one of these things now. If you don't have one on your wrist, if your phone doesn't work properly, if you can't figure out, what time of day it is, maybe you want to catch up with current times and figure out a way to fix that. But we start at this time. I shut the door. Sorry you didn't make it. Hopefully you can be on time for the next one. In fact, a really good story about that was Darren Hardy talked about when he was young. He showed up at his father's office to do some cleaning or do something, and there was a gentleman, a prominent businessman, there 7:45, and he was supposed to meet his dad at 8:00. So Darren opened up the office and let the guy in, and at 8:01, the guy goes, "Well, your father's late. Tell him he can contact me if he wants to reschedule." And Darren was like, "Well, he should be here like any minute now." And he goes, "He told me he'd be here at 8:00. He is late. I have a lot of things to do, and he needs to respect my time as much as I respect his. Thank you." And out the door he went. And Darren said he was just like, "Really?" And he said his dad showed up at 8:10, and he goes, "Mr. So-and-so was here and he left." And his dad was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "You were late." And he's a busy man, and if you can't respect his time, he's got to get going. And he said after that, his father was never late for a meeting ever again. And I'm one of those people that got taught to me a different way when I was young. But yeah, basically, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. And you can blame it on whatever the heck you want. Oh, the traffic. Then you should have left early. It's better to sit in the office for a half an hour early than it is to gamble on whether or not the traffic. Now, if it's one of those where news report shows the road was blocked and you literally had left in enough time, that's a whole different thing. But we all know those people that go, well, it takes me 11 minutes to get there, so I'm going to leave the house at 11 minutes and 30 seconds, and hopefully I forgot my keys. Oh, now it's 10 minutes till. Oh, my coffee. Oh, shoot, now it's 5 minutes till. Oh, well,
Guilty.
Traffic.
I'm the person who normally early. I'm normally waiting outside because it's too early.
If it's got something to do with hypnosis, I'm never late. But if I'm going to like my day job, my work every day, or going to meet a friend, I'm always late.
Priorities.
Always late.
Through time, in time, and all the above. We can talk about timeline manipulation at another time. But
you know, TJ, that also reminded me what you were saying about that guy who left. Pitch Anything. Did anyone read Pitch Anything? Because David recommended that one. Like the first time I met him, he recommended that book. It's by Oren Klaff, Orenklaff.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. He tells a story in there. It's the whole book's about like frame control and things like that. And he tells a story in there about how he was he went to some office. They had a meeting scheduled for a meeting with some venture capitalists or something. They wanted to sell them an idea. And when he got there, the main decision-making dude wasn't there, and he had like two of his assistants there instead. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you could just tell me, and I'll fill in Mr. Smith later." And he just looks at the guy and he goes, "Do you know what? I'm going to wait 10 minutes. If he gets here, then we'll continue. If not, I'm going to leave." He waits for 10 minutes, and then he turns around and says to him, "Okay, I'm leaving now. If you would like to meet with us again, next time let's do it at our office, and please don't be late." And he leaves the card and just walks out. And it's so good because it puts you in control.
Yeah.
So my answer to Francine is the one who's willing to walk away. And it's not just in teaching, in the one, in the same thing that I was saying to Fran, be willing to say no, be willing to walk away. Right. And it will show people that you mean business, and they will stop messing around with you. Sometimes, you know, like I do shift work in my day job, right? I do shift work, and a lot of times we get people requesting, "Oh, do you want to swap shift? Do you want to swap shift?" There's one guy in particular, he loves the late shift, and he always takes my late shift, and I love it because I hate doing the late shift. I don't want to come home at like 2:30 in the morning, right? So he's always taking, yeah, Stina, sorry, still late, even in that scenario. So,
priorities.
Yeah, so I lost what I was saying now. Late shift, that was it. Yeah. And so he always takes it, and I always want to give it to him. But it got to a point where like he was just kind of assuming that we would swap, and he was putting the paperwork through without asking me. Right. So what I did, like for convenience, I took a bunch of forms. We have to fill out the form, the whole official process, right? So I signed a bunch of blank forms and left them in my drawer at work, right? So he would send me a message, "Oh, do you want to swap this shift in 3 weeks' time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. There's a signed thing in my drawer. Take it and just fill it out." Yeah. So after a while, he started taking them and just filling it out, and I didn't even know that I was signing these forms. And he started going through without even running them by me. So I started saying no. right? So I just said no once, and then I would say yes a few times, and I would say no again. And I would every now and again, and I still do it to this day, and not just with him, but like with all sorts of things. Even if I want it, every now and then I will randomly reject just to keep people in line. Because if I remain unpredictable, then they won't be able to take advantage.
Exactly.
Right? So that's a thing. That's the thing. If you just remain unpredictable, you know, if someone's always like, okay, well, let's meet, we meet every Friday. And then one day I'm just like, you know, I can't make it next 3 Fridays, sorry, but I'll see you in 4 weeks' time. Right? This, you know, sometimes it's just another thing to, it's like a boundary setting exercise, you know, letting everybody know this is what I'll stand for, but if you cross this line, I'm walking away. Then you have to follow through with that.
Yeah. Kind of like the I'm going to count to 3 program for kids that I hear these days that teaches children how to count to 2.5. Stop doing that. I'm going to count 3. 1, 2. In the kid's mind, he's going 1, 2, 2.5. Then the kid counts to 10 so he can start all over again. I told you to stop. I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 2.5. Now I got to count to 15. Back when I was a kid, we had the 1, 2, 3 program, but my dad had it completely different. 1 was I told you once, 2 didn't exist, and 3 hurt.
My daughter would say 3, 4, 5. Yeah, if I'd say 1, 2, then she'd continue counting, so it kind of blew the whole thing.
Well, I know what happened. You let her do it. My dad I'd have been like 3, 4. A week later when I woke up, it would have been like, and you pull that shit again, it'll be 2 weeks. Kirby punch. Remember what we did to the goat?
Did you ever hear that joke by Russell Peters when he was saying, my dad used to kick my ass when I was a kid when I used to step out of line and stuff. And then I met my friend and he was like really rude to his mom. It's like, dude, how can you speak like that? You'll get in trouble. It's like, oh no, you just tell them you're going to call like children's aid or something, right? And then you know they'll back right off. They'll get in trouble. So Russell Peters goes to his dad. Next time he's going to get his ass kicked, he's like, don't do it. I'll call children's aid. And his dad's like, oh really? Here's the phone. You want me to dial it for you? Right? And he's like, what are you doing? If I call them, you're going to get in trouble. He's like, I might get in a little bit of trouble, but I know it's going to take about 23 minutes to get here. And in that time, you're going to get your ass kicked.
I actually did that.
I stepped out of line again, you know?
Yeah. I did that exact same process to one of my girlfriend's sons who pulled this. I'm going to call the cops. I went, oh, you are? Well, hell, I'll help you. I know the number by heart because I got a lot of friends there. So you might want to get your breathing up and going. He's like, what? I said, well, if I hand you the phone and you go, help, TJ's beating me, it's not going to be nearly as believable if you've got, you know, a good scream, a good breathing process going on. I got 2 digits left, man. You might want to work on that. Okay, 1 digit left. But I tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to let you get about halfway in through your whole talk, and then I'm going to grab the phone from you, and I'm going to hang it up. And then I'm going to put you into so much hurt, it's going to probably take you about a week in ICU. Because if I'm going to go to jail over you, you're going to have some walking disabilities to think about it. But one of us is friends with law enforcement. Who would that be? Well, yeah, that would be me. So you can either get in the kitchen and do the dishes like you're supposed to, or I can press one. He never pulled that on me again, though. And now this recording is going to have to be edited because I'm sure I'm going to have somebody that's going to try and have me sued from how many years ago. And you know what? Bottom line is, he never got hurt, but he didn't pull that stuff again. Squirrel, when Elijah brought up book, I totally forgot that the client that I was working with for the day trading recommended a book called Mental Game of Trading by Jared Tindler, Tendler. And he said that it's a really good book, especially for preparing mental game. So again, Mental Game of Trading by Jared Tindler. Tendler. Y'all find it? Cool.
You want another one? The
Sure.
Trading Bible that doesn't teach you any strategies, but teaches you all about your mental game. Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. Rest in peace, Mark Douglas. He was writing his third book and he died halfway through, so we never got to read that one. But Trading in the Zone was his second book, and it's freaking amazing. It's so good. I've bought it like 5 times.
Trading in the Zone by who? Michael?
Mark Douglas.
Mark.
Best book on trade. If you, in fact, you go on any trading forum anywhere, and it is widely known as like the Trading Bible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Look at all the things you can learn here on Triple T.
So how can we apply more of these trading Bible techniques to our everyday lives to get leverage on what we want out of our lives?
Okay. There are 5 fundamental truths about the market and 7 principles of consistency. Right? 5 fundamental truths about the market. Number 1, anything can happen. Lenora knows number 2. It's a good one. Number 2, you don't need to know what's going to happen next in order to make money.
I was thinking more about how controlled your voice was and how you paused and then how you continue.
Yeah, Fran was writing. You can see, can you not see Fran's hand going?
I'm going. My goodness.
Yeah, but you've heard this before. I didn't have to wait for you. Right? So yeah, and again, just like parallel in terms of coaching and hypnosis and stuff, you know, anything can happen. You don't need to know what's going to happen next in order to get your outcome, right? If I just change the last few words in order to make money and in order to get your outcome, right? 3, there is a random distribution between wins and losses for any given set of variables that defines an edge. I'll come back to that one. Right, I'll come back to that one. I'll say it again. There is a random distribution between wins and losses for any given set of variables that defines an edge, which means, let's say you have a coin that you flip and it can go heads or tails, right? And it's a 50-50. So in the long run, whether you bet on heads or whether you bet on tails, you should break even in the long run, right? Near enough. The thing you don't know is the sequence of heads or tails. And this is something that messes people up in Las Vegas all the time, every day. They're sitting on that roulette wheel and say, oh, it's landed on red 7 times in a row. I'm going to bet on black. It's still a 50-50. It's a new spin and it's still 50-50 and it could go red just as easily again. The only way to make it count and to make it show accurately is to flip the coin more often, right? So if I have a regular coin and I flip it 10 times, I might get 7 heads and only 3 tails. And most people would look at those results and be like, ooh, that's a 70% heads coin. But it's not. It's 50-50. It's just the sample size of results is too small. Yeah. You need to flip it 300,000 times or 2 million times, and then it will be near enough 50-50 because they're such a large number of results shows the average more accurate, right? In the same way, when it comes to coaching and hypnosis and stuff, right? If you try a technique with someone and it doesn't work, and you throw your toys out the pram and go, bah, forget this hypnosis stuff, it doesn't work. It's, after one attempt, how much actual information do you have? I've done 4 magic bullets. David's 4 magic bullets. I've done it thousands of times on thousands of people. And I can count on one hand the number of times it didn't work. And that's what gives me such strong belief that it's going to work before I even start doing it. And that's what makes it work even better.
Yes.
Right? So, take from that what you will. Yeah. Number 4, an edge is simply a higher probability of one thing happening over another. That's self-explanatory. And number 5, every moment is unique, meaning if something looks exactly the same, feels exactly the same, you've got this incredible, accurate deja vu, that doesn't mean it's going to turn out the same way as it did last time. Right? These are 5 fundamental truths about the market. Yes, Lenora.
You want to hear something cool?
Go for it.
You
Always.
said every moment is unique.
Mm-hmm.
You can never make the same sound twice.
You don't beat the same heartbeat twice.
Took that sound one. Woo! Beat it with a heartbeat.
Well,
damn! I did not see that coming.
Well, it's because you were on sound. That's why you wouldn't see it coming.
Well, fine. As long as we're playing with this realm, I also use that analogy for people getting over things that have happened to them. I'm like, that event happened once. No, he did that to me. I went, no, he did it once to you. Multiple times, but each time it only happened one time.
And differently.
And each time you go back and focus on it, it costs you the same amount of CPU energy as the first time. Even though you survived it when it happened to you that one time. And I know you survived it because we're able to have this conversation right now. And if you survived it, it means that there is nothing from your past that you are not stronger than. And with that knowledge, you can decide how many times you want to go back and relive what happened, or allow yourself to go, I survived it. I want only the lessons from it now. The rest of it is just baggage that is weighing me down. Take the lessons forward, know that you survived it, and move forward. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It does mean it happened, you survived, you got lessons from it, and the rest of the feces can go down the drain, out to wherever, sit in the septic tank, fertilize your yard, use it on your roses, make them grow nicer, but don't sit there and swim in it for the rest of your life, reliving it over and over and over and over and over. And Fran's got her hand up.
I want to say I'd like to make a correction of lessons. useful lessons, because some of the lessons we get are, I don't ever want to do that again. It's making me smaller. The useful lessons are distinct from the less than useful lessons. So I just like to point it.
I'm going to reframe that for you. The fact that you know that they're useless lessons or not as useful, there's a lesson right in that. And I forgot one thing that I'd put on my Facebook post about talking tonight, and I can't go into depth with it, but it was, again, Jordan Peterson. Love the stuff he comes up with, blows my mind. We think so much alike. And he brought up the concept of, people tell you that you always have to tell the truth. And he goes, but you can't. Because in order to always tell the truth, you have to know every single thing about what you're talking about. So instead of always telling the truth, don't lie. Because you know when you're lying. Tell the truth to the best of your ability, but don't lie.
It's so funny that you said this, right? I was having a conversation with someone just a couple of days ago. Maybe it was just yesterday. She said, people are always lying and they don't even know they're doing it. And I started thinking about it, and it's true. Most people, even when they're lying, often don't realize that they're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, we need to do a class on that, TJ. Well,
what would that look like?
Magician's fourfold law. Which I know David only teaches 3 of them.
I forgot one thing that he added onto it. He goes, but you know when you're lying because enough questions will prove it. If I ask you enough questions, I can find out if you're lying. If you think that you know the absolute truth, enough questions will prove it. The problem is our knowledge is limited. We can know as much as we know, and you can even have people who are absolute, the epitome on this, but eventually you'll be able to ask questions down to a point that they don't know the answer. But they will know if they're lying. And what do we got here? Stina added, piggybacking on the beginning of this call, TJ was talking about making a 1% change. You end up in a completely different location. So applied to boundaries, how might each tiny tweak you make, each standard you let be known, each boundary you enforce gets you even closer towards the exact place where you would like, or even better than that? Exactly. And that's why I work so much with future pacing. And I've had some people give me pushback on it, like, oh, if everything's changing and I future pace and I end up, and I think that I'm going to this location, what if I don't make it there? I'm like, you're absolutely right. What if you make it to an even better place? Because you started making the gradual curve away from where you were headed traditionally. And if you keep improving because you've got your eyes set on to a better place, well, yeah, if your eyes are set on, level 1200 and you make it to level 1500, oops, or if you only make it to level 1100, that's still more than level 1 where you were headed before we started future pacing. But at least you had a GPS, you had a vision, a location, a destination. It allowed you to make better choices, because every day we are one choice away from a life-changing event, for better or worse. And a lot of times we don't know until farther down the line. All you got to do is read the book, The Slight Edge. There's 3 or 4 books now that all have the same principle of just tiny little changes done over time can put you in an entirely different place, for better or worse. Is having if you're making a decision between having an apple or a Snickers bar, and you decide to have the Snickers bar, is that the end of the world? Are you done? No. But if you make that decision 3-4 times a day for 4, 5, 6 years, probably won't take you to the location that you were hoping for. And that brings us to Skittles. Whee! Squirrel.
It's about choosing what's right over what's easy.
There's another, choosing to leave early to be on time.
Choosing what's right, asterisk, as opposed to what's easy. And I mean, right is going to be different for each person, right?
Yeah, choosing what time you're going to leave if you've got to go somewhere at a specific time.
Listen, the party don't start till I arrive anyway.
And that brings us right up to the 8 o'clock hour here in Dallas area, which means we have made it through another Triple T on a Tuesday evening here, and even further in the future for some of our other guests. I want to again thank each and every one of you for investing your time, sharing your thoughts and your energies, and showing up and giving me something other than myself to, well, I've got my little dog, my Poochie Pooch is here. Ammo is keeping guard. Let's see here. There's Ammo. Yeah, he's chilling. Not bad for 12 years old. Although
he knew the camera was looking. He got right.
Oh yes, no, he's good at attention. Of course, most of the time he thinks he's 3, which I'm all for. But back to us. Again, thank you. Please share this with other people, and just to hopefully we can change somebody's life for the better. And hope to see you all back here in 7. Now go out and be nice to people.
Thanks, TJ. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Hey, good night. Thanks.
Stop my recordings now.
Thank you, TJ. And thank you, everybody. You gave me heaps. I really appreciate everyone.